Republican New York Representative Elise Stefanik was feuding with Mike Johnson earlier this week, but now it appears the two have made up. It has to do with the annual defense spending bill lawmakers are trying to pass by the end of this month.
Some Republicans, including Stefanik, were looking to add a provision to the bill that would require the FBI to notify Congress when conducting counterintelligence investigations into federal candidates seeking office. But on Monday, Stefanik took to X, accusing Johnson of siding with Democrats to block that provision. She wrote in part, "Unless this provision is added back into the bill to prevent illegal political weaponization of the intelligence community in our elections, I am a hard no. I have always voted in support of the defense and intelligence authorization bills, but no more. It is a scandalous disgrace that Republicans are allowing themselves to be rolled by the Dems and the deep state on this."
Now this all goes back to the FBI's Crossfire hurricane probe into alleged ties between Trump's 2026 campaign and Russia. Stefanik has been pushing for this provision for years and doubled down on it after the Arctic Frost investigation that looked into the efforts to overturn the 2020 election.
But when reporters brought up the issue to Mike Johnson, he denied any involvement in removing the provision and said he actually supports it. Take a look.
So that provision was dropped out of the NDAA. It doesn't mean it can't become law or even that that is a final decision. But I sent my friend Elise a text last night and I said, can you find out what the issue was and I'll help you resolve it. I support her provision. I mean, I would vote for it. I think it's smart. And I'm not sure exactly why it wasn't included. So I don't know why she's frustrated with me. I literally had nothing to do with it, but I'm happy to roll up my sleeves and help her.
Unfortunately for Johnson, Stefanik was not buying any of his explanation. She continued her social media tirade on Tuesday, calling him a liar. But then Wednesday morning, the Congresswoman sent out an update. Great news! After a productive discussion I had last night with President Trump and Speaker Johnson, the provision requiring congressional disclosure when the FBI opens counterintelligence investigations into presidential and federal candidates seeking office will be included in the NDAA bill on the floor. This is a significant legislative win delivered against the illegal weaponization of the deep state. And of course, while this is an important step, there is so much more work to do.
I don't know that I do support this provision. Here's my problem.
Oh, I'm surprised.
Well, but here's my problem. I don't like when Congress, political people who otherwise support domestic surveillance and law enforcement's surveilling of Americans and the Patriot Act and the spying on Americans and the collecting of our data, vote for some special carve-out for politicians. Like, that's my problem with this whole Arctic Frost thing. They're furious that their records were obtained but looked at by law enforcement, and I share their outrage. But I am outraged on behalf of all of the American people. I'm not so outraged on behalf of Republicans who voted for this very power to be invested in law enforcement. So now they're going to say that if you get to have a heads up from law enforcement if you're being investigated if you're a congressional candidate, but not if you're an ordinary American. I don't know about that. I'd have to think about it further. I'd have to read the greater details, but I don't want special accommodations for the politicians. Let them abide by, if they created the deep state, if they're annoyed by it, dismantle it. Dismantle it. But they're only outraged when it happens to one of them or it happens to Trump. And I've criticized Republicans for that for a long time. They're furious when their text messages get read by the FBI. But what about the rest of us? They voted to give the FBI that power over and over again. They reauthorize it every time without thinking, without batting an eyelash. Now they're mad? I don't know about that. It's weak to me.
Well, I think it's interesting. The interesting part of this whole thing to me is the way that this feels like there was an intention to take it out of this proposal, and so the fact that it's
Mike
now
Johnson's
back in
such
there,
a smooth guy. He's like, we took it out. What are you talking
yeah,
about?
exactly. That's what it felt very much
why
like.
Is she even mad?
Yes. So I
It's
appreciate
such a gaslighting sort of way
yes.
of talking to the frustrated female members of his So
it's interesting to me the way that the president and Johnson handled this and Stefanik is totally different, and maybe her approach is a little bit different because she didn't go as many times at any leadership. But then Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? She kind of went, like, I guess, hit. There's a little friction within the GOP right now.
What are you talking about? You sound crazy. You should smile more.
Me?
That's what he's saying.
Wait.
to the Stefaniks and MTGs.
Exactly. So it's kind of like pushing them away. But I
life.
think that for her to go on X this morning and say this has been an update, it makes me wonder why they wanted to cater to her so much. So then I looked into it, and I know that she obviously announced her gubernatorial bid last month, and so she's looking forward to moving forward in that election in New York and gaining steam on Governor Hochul, and that's a goal for her. But I know that she's like a popular player within the Republican Party right now who maybe wants to differentiate herself and say that I am outside of the bureaucracy, even though she's in Congress, like you said, and we have to look at her record and see how many times that she has approved and voted for things that will surveil everyone else. But when it happens to anyone that she's an ally with, it's a problem. But I think the fact that she is trying to, in the same way that I felt Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to differentiate herself in certain ways because of bigger political aspirations, that's the bigger end game to me for her here, is to say, I was the one that stood up. She can roll on her record when people start to bring this up in New York, especially because New York is a place where people probably feel extremely over-surveilled because there's so many people and so many instances of like NYPD using or acquiring information about people because it's such a populated city. So I think that she's trying to use this for future gains with her interest. And I think that why they responded so quickly might be because they know that if she is the governor of New York, they're going to need that ally for most things.
Well, and remember, she was picked to be, I think, ambassador by Trump to the UN. Is that correct? Can Control Room remind me of what that was? And then they had to withdraw that because they couldn't afford to give up that House seat because it's too close, and they don't know. So I think she might feel a bit like she took a major sacrifice and has not gotten enough of a reward, of an attention, of a high-profile slot, and she's fed up with GOP leadership for not recognizing her.
But it also is interesting because she's in this in-between where, yes, President Trump is the leader of the party. Johnson is in a leadership position also. But those tides may start to turn even as she pursues, as we look into the midterms and next year's elections, the tides may turn because people know they can't vote for Trump again. We have this conversation often. So what does it mean for her to be
might
allied?
not be in the majority
Mike Johnson,
again.
he might not be in the same position. So there's so much that is connected to her trying to, I guess, flex her muscles a little bit in this moment. That means like, no, propel me up right now before it's too late, and then you won't have an ally when you're about to lose your position or when people can't vote on your name. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of that happening within the GOP right now, which, listen, I'm not saying that just to only criticize one party. The Democrats have their own stuff going on. But within the GOP, there's a lot of fighting and friction. And to do this publicly once again, it shows that there's a little more disarray than I think people want to actually admit. And the fact that they responded so quickly makes me wonder what power they think she's going to have within the next few years.
I guess we'll see.
Costco Wholesale has sued the Trump administration before the Court of International Trade for a refund of the tariffs. We'll talk about that next. Stay with us.